So last week, I want to recap a bit last week when we looked at what type of community are we? And I said last week that we are a community for two types of people: the exploring and the following. The exploring and the following. I don't know about you, but sometimes churches feel more called to minister to the exploring and help the exploring. Some churches feel called to focus on the following and feeding and depth, and it's all great. But Vintage, we aim high, we make life difficult for ourselves and go kind of like the community around Jesus. Some are following and some are exploring. And we want to be both. We want to help those who've got questions. We want to help those who are cautious and skeptical. If you're here today like that, we want to be a church where you feel safe to go on your journey of asking those questions, of exploring Jesus. And if you're following, we want to be a church where you go, oh my word, I feel fed, I feel enriched, I feel discipled. I'm becoming a disciple of Jesus. Or I am a disciple of Jesus, becoming more like him. And so we wanted to paint the picture a bit of what that means here at Vintage. And so as an update, as we look to the year ahead, it's why our Sundays, we hope to be for both exploring and following. We hope that this is a Sunday gathering where if you're exploring, you find it helpful. I remember coming to church petrified that I would burn up on entry, but I managed to get to a church once where they welcomed me and loved me. They loved to let me be on the balcony for a few months while I sneered, and it felt a safe place. We want that to be a place for you too. And hopefully, with what we say up here, some of it you'll find helpful. But we also want to be a deep church of teaching and practice and rhythms of life that followers feel fed and go on the journey. Kind of feels, oh yeah, I went to Vintage, they got a good steak dinner, or a great kale salad, whatever it may be for you, to feel really full and energized. And so this fall, we really look at our teaching and our Sunday services intentionally to be for both, particularly our teaching. And our teaching is going to be exciting this semester because we've got some people coming in to help teach. I want to kind of show that. So coming up soon, we have John Mark Comer, our new teacher in residence, will be coming to teach on prayer for a few weeks, and so that's exciting. And then on November 12th, we also have Dr. Amy Orr-Ewing, our friend from England. She's was a professor at Oxford. She's coming, and she'll be speaking on November 12th. And so we do really look at how can we feed the following? How can we help people in their journey of growth in Jesus? That's what it means on our Sundays. But of course, we also answered the question last week, but Ger, how do I, I'm a follower of Jesus. Vintage, there's a lot going on. Where do I go to really be discipled? Where do I go to really become like Jesus? What's kind of your main area of this is how we follow Jesus together at Vintage? And we recognize on this next slide, there's a lot going on, a lot of great things going on. And we want to thank you for many of you who are leading these things. But we recognize that most of these things are for particular people at particular times with particular requests or circumstances. But where's the one foundation? This is where we invite you to come into, that we together follow Jesus and become like him and learn to do the things that he did. And so we said last week we're launching something new, and they are called Vintage Communities, and open enrollment is now. And these are the communities where we say all these other things are great and we're not stopping these other things. But if you want to really grow and follow Jesus, become like him, learn the rhythms of relationship with him and being filled with the Spirit to do the things he did, we want to say Vintage Communities is where it's at. Bit of background on what they are. So they're going to meet weekly during the semesters, have like a break over Christmas and just give a break. And they're primarily communities where we do life together, become like Jesus together, and serve others together. We are growing as followers of him. And I don't know about you, but I go, man, if you want me to do something else, first of all, it's going to be really worth it, because I can't add anything else. I probably need to stop something to do this. And so our commitment to you is that we are putting our best into these groups as far as content and rhythms of life together, formational practices, that you go, this is where I'm primarily growing as a follower of Jesus. And so therefore, we've curated and are curating what we call a 2-year discipleship pathway within these groups. So if you think about 2 years, there's kind of 6 academic semesters and then the summer off. And over those 6 kind of seasons, we have 6 modules. 5 reflecting our core teaching around the kingdom of God and Jesus. So deep theology, the spirit-filled life. John Mark's new course, the Practicing the Way. Our friend John Tyson did a great course on the missional life. And then we're curating another course called Life Together. And then we want these groups obviously not just to be inward but outward. And so one of these semesters, a group, we're inviting you to, hey, come on Alpha together and help us run Alpha to help others explore Jesus. We say, look, you can do in your community any of these in any order. But it is a 2-year journey where we are so excited about what it will mean for us to go in these rhythms of journeying together and living life together and the practices of Christ together to grow in him. So open enrollment is now, and there's 2 ways to get in a group. Next slide, TJ. Open enrollment is now. 2 ways to get in a group. You can find a group or form a group. We had about 20 or so groups open last week to be filled, and we had 250 people sign up to get into a group, and into a vintage community. And so we ran out of communities. And so we're asking for more communities to be formed that you can invite more people in. So do go online. There may be some new ones going up today of people going, I'll host a group, a vintage community. And you can check that out. Or form one yourself. Get some friends together and go, hey, we should do this. And maybe invite some other people in it and go on this 2-year journey. Nothing else is stopping, but we do want to focus. We believe that to follow Jesus is to be intentional and to go on that journey together with others. So vintage communities. The other thing we talked about last week was for those who are brand new believers, kind of like white belt at this whole thing called following Jesus, not black belt, of going, how do I do this? I didn't even know the Bible. I'm like, what is prayer? Then we have something called rooted. Rooted is that between, like, I was exploring, I'm just beginning to follow. We're about to start rooted again. We always have a great group of people going, that was amazing, that was so helpful. Before you released me into the wild of the church, I needed that grounding. And so we recommend rooted. But this morning, we want to focus on what that other category is. What do we recommend for people who are exploring? Because Sundays are helpful, but Sundays can never be the full story. I grew up in a secular context. All my friends were atheists. Loved my friends dearly in the north of England. And Rob became one of my best friends. And Rob was an atheist, a scientist, really by nature, and lots of questions about Jesus in the end and my friendship with him. So eventually, after years of saying, hey, mate, do you want to come to church? You should come to church. Rob, you should come to church this Sunday. He eventually caved and went, okay, I'll come to church. I was so excited about Rob coming to church. My only prayer was, oh, Lord, please let this Sunday be normal. Have you ever prayed that prayer when you brought a friend to church? Please, Lord, let this Sunday be normal. Nothing weird, which is always a risk at the kind of church I grew up in. I went, Lord, I'm doing my thing. I prayed for Rob for 3 years to come to church, and he's finally come. We walked in, we were meeting in a movie theater. We walked in, and we sat at the back that Rob would feel a bit more comfortable. He sat on my left, and we were watching everything down front, and the worship began. And for about 5 minutes, the pastor, I could see him getting agitated on the front row, and after about 5 minutes, he got up and got the microphone and stopped the worship team. And I thought, oh no. Normal Jesus, normal Sunday. And he said from the front, he said, look, I don't know what's happening this morning, but I just feel there's a blockage in our worship this morning. I just feel like there's some kind of spiritual oppression stopping us breaking through to the heavenly of heavenlies. And that actually we need to wage war and intercession for the next 10 minutes to break down that barrier. So let everybody just lift your hands in the air, and for the next 10 minutes, we're going to shout out in tongues against the oppression. And I was going, Lord, we just sang You Never Fail. This sounds like a fail to me. This is awful. And I remember Rob, being such a lovely friend, was like, I raised my hand and I wasn't going to say anything. And I looked out in my eye and he raised his hand and everybody started to shout in tongues. I remember Rob just lifting his hands and looking at me and just going, what the F is going on? And I remember saying to him, Rob, I'm so sorry, I will never invite you to church ever again. Never again. I think that experience so scarred him, he moved to Portland. Ran away from the church altogether. But now this is not going to be like that. We want Sundays to be a safe space. But there are occasions where you go, oh, Lord, I don't think my friends would come to church. We're living in a cultural moment where people are so far from Jesus. Coming to church is scary. Coming to church is not the natural place to go where you're investigating spirituality and the big questions of life. And so we have something which we design just for people who are exploring, in addition to Sundays. And that's called Alpha. Alpha is kind of a Sunday service, but for those who are curious and skeptical. It's more tailored for them, and it's on Tuesday nights. We run it 3 times a year. And it's a space really for 2 types of people. Those who are exploring and those who are questioning. Many people are going, I don't know, man. I'm willing to explore. Many people are going, I don't know what I believe anymore. I grew up with this, but I'm kind of re-questioning everything. I've got a deep heart for that community because that was me. And for me, Alpha was that safe space where I could go in and ask my questions, go on a journey. There's no judgment, no pressure. Everybody in the Alpha course was like me, skeptical and cautious, maybe with some church hurt. And over the 8 weeks of Alpha, we have a simple format. We have dinner together with groups with people just like you, questioning, seeking, curious. There's a live talk, which I give that talk, and some others give that talk, and then group discussion. We have a pub that people just feel relaxed, 2-drink limit, all that kind of stuff. But, it's a safe space. And then we do live Q&A, where I get the microphone, and it's more Q&R, really, like, ask me any question, I'll tell you kind of my response of how I wrestle with that question. It is a place for people to go, okay, I needed this. I needed this. When I was in my late 20s, so disillusioned with church, I thought, I'm never going back again. And someone invited me to Alpha. And I remember thinking, this is not going to be safe. This won't be people for people like me. And I remember that first evening I was in a group, and the host said, let's just go around and say who we are and kind of our worldview. Like, what kind of worldview do we bring to the table tonight? And I thought, oh no, it's going to be Christian, all that kind of stuff, and I'm going to feel so awkward. But I was so pleasantly surprised. The first person went, I'm an atheist. I went, oh, phew. The next person, atheist. Next person, agnostic. Next person, I don't know. I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be good. Then the next person said, I'm a witch. I thought, this is going to be amazing. This is awesome. And it became a beautiful 8-week journey, feeling safe to ask and explore the questions of Jesus and faith in safety and without pressure. I know that going on Alpha or inviting a friend to consider Alpha is quite daunting because it's 8 weeks. No one wants to commit to 8 weeks. We're in LA, right? We could be on a movie set next week, not anymore with the strike, but you know what I mean? We never know. So we have a launch night, which is this Tuesday. And at that launch night is bring a friend. And just that launch night is literally me giving you an experience of what Alpha's like so you or your friends can decide is Alpha for you. The format of the evening is dinner in a group, having dinner together with new friends who are all spiritually questioning. Then I just give a short 15-minute talk on what is Alpha so that people can decide for themselves. We then have the pub. I think we've got a live DJ, we've got the Alpha Pub going on, all that kind of stuff. It'll be such a great night. No social hangover the next day. People will love the evening. And just hearing about Alpha, then if they want to do Alpha, they can select themselves to do it and come back the next Tuesday and start week 1 of Alpha. If you're nervous about what Alpha is and if it's going to be safe to invite your friends on Tuesday, here's a little film to convince you. It's kind of a fun vibe. You'll have a good time. Let's watch this.
Something to look forward to on Tuesdays, bonding over a conversation and a drink, kind of like a family type of vibe,
Some of the coolest conversations I've ever had in Los Angeles have happened here at Alpha.
Yeah, honestly, the lighting, bro, it's a vibe in here for sure.
So don't feel pressured, just take a chance, and I think you'll really enjoy it.
So who can you bring on Tuesday? But for a moment, we're going to look at that topic a bit more in depth about what does it mean to share our faith with others in this cultural moment in our city of Los Angeles. I don't know about you, but that's a scary prospect. Christianity is not the most popular topic of conversation around our city. In fact, more and more it's disrespected, and more it's something that people don't want to hear about. And more people are feeling kind of socially rejected, or at least socially awkward, if they say they are a follower of Jesus. So what does it look like for us to tell our friends about Jesus in a way that kind of fits LA, in a way that kind of fits our friendships? To answer that question, we're going to look at a few of the disciples and what they did when they were hanging around Jesus. If you have your Bibles, we'll go to John chapter 1. It's on the screen if you don't have it with you, beginning in verse 43. What does it look like to tell people about Jesus in this city, in this moment? Verse 43. The next day, Jesus decided to go to Galilee. He found Philip and said to him, "Come, follow me." Philip was from Bethsaida, Andrew and Peter's home. And Philip went to look for Nathanael and told him, "We have found the very person Moses and the prophets wrote about. His name is Jesus. He's the son of Joseph from Nazareth." "Nazareth!" exclaimed Nathanael. "Can anything good come from Nazareth?" "Well, just come and see for yourself," Philip replied. As they approached Jesus, he said, "Now here is a genuine son of Israel, a man of complete integrity. How do you know me?" Nathanael asked. Jesus replied, "Well, I could see you under the fig tree before Philip found you." It was then that Nathanael exclaimed, "Rabbi, you are the Son of God, the King of Israel." Jesus asked him, "Do you believe this just because I told you I'd seen you under the fig tree? Mate, you're going to see greater things than this." Then he said, "I tell you the truth. You will all see heaven open and the angels of God going up and down on the Son of Man, the one who is the stairway between heaven and earth." Did you notice that one of the first things Philip did as a follower of Jesus was go tell his friends about Jesus? You can't keep in good news from your friends. You can't. Telling others about Jesus is simply loving your friends so much that you go, "Oh my gosh, Nate, I think I found him. The one that we've been longing for, the one we've been praying for, the one that we think is going to bring healing to this world. I think I found him." You don't keep that kind of news to yourself. Telling others is simply a natural consequence of finding something so exciting that you can't help tell the ones you love in hoping that they too will experience it. You can't keep in good news. I don't know about you, but LA is terrible at trying to keep in good news. You know, throughout this whole city, we're constantly talking about, hey, I found a new route from the Greek theater down to the west side, you know, and we talk about our favorite, you should do this. Hey, our best burger. Hey, have you tried Hi-Ho? Have you tried Shake Shack? Or what's the best burger nowadays? What, sorry? Father's Office. Still the Father's Office? We're still rocking the Father's Office. It's the OG of burgers on Montana. I love it. But you know what I mean? If you find a good burger, you don't keep that to yourself. Find a new coffee shop. You know, I was told a while ago, dude, Hooked in Venice. Have you been to Hooked in Venice? It's the best coffee in town. A friend of mine recently said Maru, and I found one near where I live. It was like, if you find one, you tell people about it. The best exercise class. What's the best exercise class going on right now? Pilates. Reformer Pilates. I prefer like the hot yoga myself. I'm only joking. No, but you know, you find something, you don't keep it to yourself. How much more then when we see a city lost in fear and loneliness, insignificance, security, the big questions of life we are all lost in our city. How could we not go, I hear you, mate, but I kind of want to suggest Jesus. You know, see, our city is all the time recommending the answers to the big questions of life. We think sometimes it's intolerant to do so, and yet our city says, no, it's not intolerant to do so. You know, there's two types of tolerance, right? Classical tolerance is going, look, have you thought about this? And we can agree to disagree. It's like, sure, thanks very much. I may not buy into it, but I respect you have an opinion. Modern tolerance is a shame because it's not tolerant at all. It's just saying, hey, there is no right or wrong. You be you. Don't tell me what to do. I'll believe what I want to believe. But see, LA loves classical tolerance. We love to go, hey, we found something. You should try this out. Over the last 12 years of being here in LA, whether it be on Instagram Reels or billboards or just down in the conversation on the beach, people are recommending all the time different forms of spirituality. To go, you should try this. You should look into this. You should read this book. You should do this type of yoga. You should, I thought this week, every year I go, wow, it changes so often. The last 4 weeks, I've been offered different things that I've never been offered before. Right now, for like well-being and mindfulness in our culture, I've been offered cookies and gummies. And it's like, I'm not too sure that's my thing. Manifesting, I've had a few people go, look, that is really the bomb, is manifest. Anyway, there's all sorts of versions of that. Ice bath and cold plunges are like the new thing. And then, of course, Ozempic is the miracle for everything right now. So, but LA is going, do this, try this, and simply telling other people about Jesus is simply going, see, lots of those things may be helpful, but they're not going to really be the answer. Can I recommend Jesus? Philip goes to Nathanael and goes, dude, we've been looking for ages. And there's been some kind of false hope in some different people. Some of these guys seem to be the real deal, but they all failed. I think I found the real one. If you're in a desert gasping for thirst with your buddies and you find water, you're not going to keep it to yourself. And this is how God generally orchestrates people exploring him. It's not through divine encounter. There are occasions of that. It's not through stranger connection. There are occasions of that. But throughout the Bible and throughout church history, the main means of people exploring Jesus is simply this: friendship. Friendship. Where people trust you. Where people kind of can't dismiss what you say. Where a friend, like I said to Rob, mate, you should check this out. I really feel, I know it's bizarre, but I really feel Jesus could be what you need. God has placed friends in your life because you can be the one, like Philip, just to trigger, you should check Jesus out. You should check him out. But of course, it doesn't end with just friendship. It means that your friends need to know that you're a follower of Jesus. And that's where I, for many years, was actually someone who was petrified about telling my friends. After my Rob experience, I clammed up. I thought, you know what? I'm not going to tell anyone that I'm a follower of Jesus. But of course, that's really hard then for people to actually explore Jesus if you aren't even telling them. And so what I would do then, I learned what it means just simply to be authentic in our friendships in telling people about Jesus. See, Philip was just authentic by saying, hey, Nate, I think I found him. And we're friends, right? And what I found over the years, I want to give you some tips of what it means to be authentic with your friends without being forceful and pressured, without turning them off of going, oh, shut up with the Bible verses already. What does it mean? A few things I used to do is at work on Mondays when people said, hey, how was your weekend? I would be authentic. As a follower of Jesus, I'd go, Friday I just chilled out, it was pretty boring. Saturday we went, played football, and then went to the pub and watched the footy afterwards. Went out Saturday night to a pub, a restaurant, and a club, and it was epic. It was EDM, house trans mix, I love it. But actually Sunday morning I got up and church was off the hook. Unbelievable. And then went out for lunch, that great pub lunch, and then I just slept the rest of the day. And my friends, like, you're going, hang on a minute, Ger likes trance house EDM mixes. My friends were going, what, church was off the hook? What? I've just been authentic. Just being authentic. If I was going out to the Salvation Army or doing our community dinners, it would be simply, hey, do you guys want to come and we're going to go feed the homeless? Do you want to come? Just being authentic. I remember I would rock my friends with stories if like something miraculous happened. Like a friend of mine was radically healed, where it was like doctors are going, I don't know what's going on. And so the next day at work, someone said, hey, what did you get up to last night? I went, man, we were celebrating. Because I don't know about you, I know you don't believe in the big G, which is kind of the code in my workplace for God. I know you don't believe in the big G, but Jason was like radically healed. Like X-ray to X-ray, something happened. It's unbelievable. And then, hey, let's grab some lunch. It was just being authentic, right? We're not pushing things down people's throats. We're sharing the good news and witnessing to Jesus, and it's up to them what they do with it. But it is about being authentic. Nate found an authentic Philip, just going, dude, I can't keep this to myself. You should check this Jesus guy out. Friendship, being authentic with your friends. The next thing we see is empathy. Philip had empathy for Nathanael's deep skepticism. Nathanael said, hang on, Nazareth, you think the Messiah was born in Nazareth? Now, that doesn't make sense to us, except in the first century, there was a pecking order, like today, there's a pecking order of geographical location, of where you grew up, what school you went to, kind of what community you hung with. And the Messiah was like the royal king would never come from a community which is like the backwaters of backwater, like Nazareth. This tiny nothing of a village. This is ridiculous. He's going to come from a royal city, like Bethlehem. That's what we would expect. He was born there, but grew up in Nazareth, or Jerusalem, or somewhere cool. It wouldn't come from like the nobody, nowhere kind of communities. Nothing good comes from there. And to be honest, Philip just said, that's a good question. I actually don't have the answer for you. He empathized with, that's kind of a good question. I think it's important as we tell others about Jesus to empathize with people have really good questions and doubts and reason to be skeptical. We're not living in a neutral territory where people have a neutral view of Jesus. It's been shaped and warped and bruised over the years by being in environments where they go, I actually don't think I will ever check out Jesus. You've seen these charts many times, but in the 1950s, we were in a different context with telling others about Jesus because people really didn't have much baggage about the church or Jesus. It was just, they needed to be revived. They needed to be awakened. But by the 1970s and 60s, 70s and 80s, people started to have questions. The rise of modernism, scientific evidence, the rise of pluralism, immigration, people were going, whoa, 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 whoa. What about the evidence for the resurrection? What about these other faiths? What makes Jesus true and these others not true? Good questions. So we helped people with things like books, evidence that demands a verdict, the case for Christ. We would help people. But we're in a wholly different context now in LA in 2023 where people have so much more baggage and hurt and questions around things of Jesus, which frankly I empathize with. I shared them for many years. I was so hurt by the church, I ran away and never went back for years. I had intellectual questions which I didn't feel were respected in church. I had doubts. I felt shamed for having doubts. I had friends who were abused by someone in the church. It was like, all of these things were like, and then all the scandals on TV, and then the Bible seemed to be this kind of confusing book of good bits and then weird bits. I was confused, and I look at people and go, like Philip, said to Nathanael, that's a good question. We should check that out together. And the challenge I have is, where do we invite people who have these questions? Some of them you can help yourself with people over a beer, over a latte. You can say, hey, let me help you with that. But most often I find myself in Philip's shoes where I go, yeah, that's a good question. I don't have an answer. But you should come and check him out for yourself. In other words, with empathy then comes an invitation. An invitation to come and check Jesus out for yourself. See, I grew up thinking telling others was about forcing and convincing and persuading. I look at Philip and go, actually, I think it's more about an invitation for them just to check out Jesus for themselves. Come and see for yourself. And that's why Sundays we hope to be a place where you can bring friends to come and see. I promise I won't do anything weird on a Sunday. Well, except the normal weirdness. But Alpha is a particularly safe place to bring your friends, where you can go, look, this is where you're going to get your questions answered. This is where you're going to go on a journey. This is where you're going to actually share and learn from others. This is just for you. See, Alpha, this next slide, Alpha is this beautiful, organic, messy, real, authentic journey through all the challenges that we have around faith in Jesus. We hold nothing back, no questions too hostile. People can say anything or not say anything. I'm on my 42nd Alpha because I don't think there's a more beautiful space in all of LA than real conversation with real friends about real things without any pressure or judgment. And here's the thing, as we come to end here. When you think about, okay, who can I bring to the Alpha launch night then? Just for them to check it out for themselves. I've got friends like that. I've got friends like Nathaniel, maybe interested, but also pretty skeptical, maybe hurt or deconstructing, maybe re-questioning what they think. Should I bring them to the Alpha launch night? I love that Philip had utter faith that he didn't know what would happen when Nathanael would meet Jesus, but he had faith something good would happen. I wonder if he thought, oh no, Jesus, just be normal. Don't scare him off. But he had faith that all I need to do is get Nathanael to explore Jesus, and Jesus will do the rest. And I think that's the beauty of something like Alpha or talking to your friends is we're not trying to force anything. We're actually just trying to facilitate a meetup. Hey, why don't you just check each other out? Why don't you check Jesus out for a bit and see what happens? And when you invite someone to explore Jesus, Jesus will always do his best stuff. It may be over time, it may be some seeds, but in a unique way, just for that person, he will meet with them. I love, and it's shocking, shockingly beautiful, how Jesus met up with Nathanael. We won't go into it now, but you see, remember that kind of strange interaction between Jesus and Nathanael. Nathanael's walking towards Jesus, and Jesus just goes, oh, I know you. You're the true Israelite who has no deceit. In other words, he read his mail straight away. And Nathanael's going, how do you know me? Like, you've never met before, and you know more about me than my friends. Like, you see into my character, my heart. Straight away, Nathanael discovered someone knew him in a way that he longed to be known. No facade, no performance issues, no, just, oh my word, the first thing you said was, I love the way I made you. So Nathanael goes, hang on a minute, how do you know me? And then Jesus goes, because, mate, I saw what you were doing under the fig tree. I know everything. Now, scholars go, there's a great question which I want to ask Nathanael when I see him. Dude, what were you doing under the fig tree? It must have been something that he didn't want to reveal because it was a secret. And it was that triggered Nathanael to go, Oh my word, if you saw that, you are. You are who you say you are. And more than just you saw that, so hang on a minute, you saw me in my most intimate moment of shame and secrecy, the stuff I don't want anyone else to know. You saw that and you welcomed me with honor and love. You not only know me the way I long to be known, but you love me the way I long to be loved, which is not for my mistakes and my hang-ups and hurts and habits, but you love me unconditionally. No wonder he said, Rabbi, you are the Son of God. He then went on to say, oh, mate, you haven't seen nothing yet. You've lived your life under a fig tree, hiding, feeling insignificant, feeling wounded. Oh, man, it's time to get out. Come with me, and we're going to see heaven opened and this whole Old Testament imagery about Jesus being the ladder and the kingdom of God pouring down into this world. He said, mate, it's time to come out of the fig tree and come into your calling and your purpose, and let's do this together. Let's see this whole world be renewed in my name. Suddenly, there's a man who knew him the way he longed to be known, who loved him the way he longed to be loved, and gave him the significance and the purpose and meaning he knew that he'd been made for, but had been wasting his life under a fig tree. See, we don't know what happens when we bring people to explore Jesus, but we have faith that Jesus does his best stuff. Because he's just saying, just invite them. Just bring them to me and let me do the rest. We have an opportunity on Tuesday night, the Alpha launch night, to go, mate, just come with me. Just a one night, fun night. But this is really meaningful for me, and I think it may be good for you. You don't have to stick around, but it's a fun night. Just check it out for yourself. But as a friend, come and see for yourself. Let's stand together.